What is up, fight fans? This is DJC Combat, and in today's video, I want to do something a little interesting, something a little bit different. I want to talk about every current UFC champion of today's generation versus the GOATs of their division. Could be of the older generation, they could be retired or still currently competing, or just haven't competed in a while. I'm going to do all the weight classes in order. I'm not going to skip the women's weight classes like most MMA YouTubers would do, because I am a passionate advocate for WMMA, but I'm going to start in order. I'm going to start with the women's strawweight division. This one was a little bit tricky because Zhang and Yana, they fought twice before. So you kind of already have your answer to that question, but those two times they fought, you can make an argument that, Yana was past her prime. But the thing is, like, about the first fight, the second fight, Yana was washed, not hungry, hadn't fought in like 2.5 years, and she fought a very hungry Zhang who was determined to get back in the title picture and get her belt back. Whereas the first time, that wasn't Zhang at the top of her game yet. And that version of Yana in the first fight was like the closest you'll ever see, or the closest you'll ever get to a prime Yana and Jacek. But I feel like Yana in her prime, when she was the champion, I feel like the reason why she was winning as much as she was, and the reason why she started taking all these losses towards the end of her career, is because she just simply started fighting better competition. She started fighting girls who were able to strike with her. Like Rose Namajunas, bad matchup because she finally met her match. A tall, lengthy striker, who can sort of match her in that department, but be maybe a bit faster, better movement, better boxing. And then Zhang Weili, another good striker, someone who can match her with volume, someone who can pretty much almost outgun her in every exchange, overpower her in the exchanges too, have a massive power advantage. So I'd say, okay, you take this current version of Zhang Weili versus Yana of 2015 to 2017 when she was the, strawweight world champion. I'd say Zhang Weili still wins, but it's a tougher fight. However, again, this is someone that Yana is facing who is a good striker. Someone that she won't have a huge striking advantage over. Someone who's going to have a power advantage over her, but not just a power advantage. This current version of Zhang Weili has really good wrestling, and she can use that to her advantage. Now, Prime Yana was a very good anti-wrestler, good takedown defense, good at getting back to her feet, better than what she showed in that second fight. But I still think Zhang Weili could get those takedowns regardless and, land the bigger, better, more damaging shots. I'd say current Weili beats Prime Yana by decision. Competitive fight, but she wins by just landing the bigger, better, more damaging shots and adding up points through those takedowns. So I'd say Zhang wins. Not as close as their fight in 2020. It is close, but I do think it would be a lot more clear that Zhang Weili is the victor. So I'd say Zhang Weili gets the win in that fight. Now, moving on to the women's flyweight division, another challenging one, because Alexa Grasso has already shared the cage with Valentina, and Valentina is the GOAT of women's flyweight, undoubtedly. She was the only champion for 5 years until Grasso got to her. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, Val arguably isn't all the way in her prime anymore. I mean, she's still good. I still do see her as one of the best in the world outside of Alexa. I do think I would favor her to beat most flyweights on the roster outside, the champ Alexa Grasso, and Manon Fiorot could potentially be a tough fight. I used to think Blanchfield could beat Val, but who knows? Sorry, I'm just sipping my water. Who knows? After that last fight with Erin that she had with Manon, based off how good Val looked in that last fight, I'd say Val kicks her ass still. But okay. Alexa Grasso versus Valentina Shevchenko prime for prime. It's kind of tough because you could make an argument that Alexa Grasso right now isn't even in her prime yet. She's yet to peak. I mean, I think she hit 30, so she's definitely heading towards her prime. She's just not there yet. Like for Alexa Grasso, I think the best is yet to come, which we're going to see in that trilogy if it does end up happening. But you take current Grasso versus Valentina in the early stages of her title reign. Honestly, Val is still good. I just think the competition is getting better. She's struggling. Maybe a little bit because she's deteriorating, but also she's getting exposed because she's fighting better girls like Talia Santos, like Alexa Grasso back to back. She fought Talia, who's bigger and a better grappler than her. She fought Alexa Grasso, someone who is well-rounded and can strike with her. You know, Valentina's not used to facing a good striker, let alone a good boxer as fast or as accurate as Alexa. But, okay, Prime Val, I mean, based off those last two fights with Alexa, if that wasn't the best of Shevchenko, unbiasedly, I might have to go with Valentina Shevchenko to win the fight. I don't think she'll win the trilogy, but this is like 28-year-old Valentina who went to a split decision with Amanda Nunes versus Grasso of today. I say Val wins via decision, but Grasso will still have her moments because she's Alexa Grasso and she is that girl. But Valentina at her peak was just different. She had that aura about her. She was hard to beat then, even harder to beat back then. And she's hard to beat now. So I give the slight edge, the slight advantage to Valentina. I think she would win just through landing a few good strikes on the feet, avoiding the big shots of Alexa, not getting in too many big punching exchanges, keeping her at kicking range, and ultimately controlling the fight with her wrestling, grappling, and size. But I would not rule out Grasso of today being able to beat Val of the past. It's very possible, and like I said, the best for Grasso is yet to come. Like, in the next few years, Grasso just might be even better than she was in those last two Valentina Shevchenko fights. And I might be saying differently that Prime Grasso beats Prime Shevchenko. But it's all speculation. But yeah, unbiasedly, I'll say Valentina Shevchenko wins that. Now, women's bantamweight, I was kind of conflicting between whether I should use Ronda Rousey or Amanda Nunes. Because Ronda Rousey never lost between title reigns. She is the one-time champion, 6 defenses, but Amanda Nunes was just flat out better than Ronda, faced and beat better competition than Ronda, and she beat Ronda's ass. So yeah, I mean, also with Ronda's style, she was like a one-trick pony. I feel like if Ronda were competing today in the women's bantamweight division, she wouldn't be as dominant, whereas Amanda Nunes, if she was still fighting, I don't really see who could stop her, so that's why I'm going to put her up here against Raquel Pennington. They already fought. Amanda Nunes already destroyed her. I do think that it would pretty much be the same outcome. You know, if they fought today, I do still think that Amanda Nunes would win. I think Nunes is better than her. Nunes is better than her in the clinch, where Raquel does really well. Better than Raquel on the ground. One of the very few girls who could like out wrestle Raquel. I think she's physically stronger than Raquel. Better striker than Raquel. More athletic than Raquel. Raquel might punch for punch have better boxing, but it doesn't matter. Nunes' footwork is so good. She's good at getting in and out of the pocket, and she's got the advantage too. She's got the upper hand with those leg kicks, and leg kicks are good weapons to break down really good boxers. So I'd say Amanda Nunes would win that fight again. I just think she's just too powerful. And Raquel she's tough, but she can be broken, and Nunes already broke her. Raquel was looking for a way out back then. I don't think it would be any different right now if they fought today. Now, Alexandre Pantoja versus Demetrius Mighty Mouse Johnson. Now that's the fight that I really want to see. That's a really interesting matchup. Demetrius Johnson, without a doubt, is the greatest flyweight of all time. Like 11 defenses, most title defenses in UFC history. Pantoja, right now you could argue he's kind of closing in on GOAT status because he's defended the belt 2 times. If he defends the belt a third time, that's like the most flyweight title defenses out of any flyweight since Demetrius Mighty Mouse Johnson. So yeah, but okay, if these two fought, Alexandre Pantoja and Mighty Mouse, I do think Pantoja would be one of Mighty Mouse's hardest fights because he does have size and he does have the grappling advantage, and DJ has primarily struggled with guys who are bigger than him and can take him down and control him. However, Demetrius Johnson is smarter. He's smaller, but he's faster. Faster, better IQ. I think his skills are better than Alexandre Pantoja. And just DJ being DJ, I feel like he'd just find a way to win the fight. I think on the feet, he would absolutely dismantle Alexandre Pantoja. I think Pantoja would come running out the gate with those, blitzing, powerful, sloppy hooks. They're effective. His combos are sloppy, but they're effective. But he'd come at DJ all reckless, but DJ would counter him. He'd stick and move. I think he would also take down an overzealous Pantoja. And yeah, Pantoja is a good scrambler and good at getting reversals, but let's not forget, DJ is also very good at scrambling, so I think he might out-scramble Pantoja. Maybe round 1 would be the toughest round, but after the first round, Pantoja does kind of slow down. Doesn't gas, but he does kind of lose some steam. He loses some sting to his punches. And if Pantoja doesn't finish you in the early rounds, like past round 2, he's not going to finish you. So if he doesn't finish DJ early, I do think DJ with his cardio advantage would start taking over in the late rounds and probably beat Pantoja by a decision. Competitive fight, because I do think Pantoja would take him down a lot. But I think Pantoja would also get outstruck and take more damage. So I think DJ wins 48-47 or 49-46. Now, moving on to the bantamweight division. Sugar Sean O'Malley versus Dominick the Dominator Cruz. Now, the GOAT topic in the bantamweight division is kind of up for debates because Aldo has 3 defenses, but the most consecutive defenses. TJ and Cruz both have 3 defenses, but non-consecutive because they've lost the belt between reigns, had to get the belt back. But if you count Dominick Cruz's WEC days, he's got the most bantamweight title defenses out of any bantamweight champ right now. So Dominick is the GOAT. But Dominick Cruz versus Sean O'Malley. I mean, prime Dominick was very difficult to deal with because he was very fast, athletic, well-rounded, good striking, good wrestling, good timing on his takedowns, good at mixing in his striking with his wrestling. But the issue with Cruz is that the reason why his style was so effective back then compared to now, yes, he is diminished a little bit or by a lot, but I just think Cruz, the level of competition he was fighting, they weren't as good as the level of competition of today's bantamweights. Like back then, his style seemed like so much of a puzzle because his style was kind of new. Like Dominick invented that style that we see today in these divisions. Like now we're seeing a lot more fighters be more elusive with their movement, move their head a lot, move their feet a lot, stance switch a lot. Dillashaw learned what he does from Dominick Cruz, and then a lot of fighters, it just kind of passed on from fighter to fighter. So back then when it seemed new, Cruz just seemed like a puzzle. But if you take a time machine and you put 2011 Dominick Cruz, 2010 Dominick Cruz up against 2024 Sean O'Malley, Sean has seen it all. There's a lot of tape on Dominick Cruz, so I don't think Sean would be very, very phased by Dominick's movements. I think O'Malley is just as fast as prime Dominick Cruz, and I think his striking is better than prime Dominick Cruz. A lot more precise with his boxing, a lot better with his kicks. Dominick's striking was good, but never like great. You know, it was very volume based, very based off his movement, but pure technique, I think O'Malley has him beat in that area. Dominick could out wrestle him, but O'Malley has shown that his takedown defense is improving fight by fight, even though Peter Yan was able to take him down as many times as he was. The thing about that is he was expecting a pure striking match from a striker like Yan. He wasn't anticipating the takedowns from Peter Yan, whereas when he was ready for the grappling of Aldo, he was able to stuff almost every takedown. So, I mean, Cruz would get him down because he times his takedowns well, but I don't think he'd be able to control Sean O'Malley. And on the feet, I think Dominick Cruz would get pieced up. I think O'Malley would time that jab on Dominick Cruz, and Dominick's head movement, it's so figured out and it gets him caught. And I feel like O'Malley would be able to catch Cruz wherever Cruz is dipping his head. He might be able to do what Chito Vera did. He might be able to catch him leaning into a hook. So I'm going to say it's a competitive fight, but O'Malley probably gets a TKO against Dominick Cruz in the late rounds or wins a decision just by doing more damage. But all in all, I do think that Sean O'Malley does beat Dominick Cruz. Ilia Topuria versus Jose Aldo Jr. This is a tough fight to call because Ilia Topuria is really good. He's that next level with his boxing, very well rounded. I mean, that guy is an absolute juggernaut. And I do think even in Aldo's prime, he'd have a tough fight with a guy like Ilia Topuria. But it's tough to say because Aldo was also a really good boxer. Aldo is very good off the back foot. When you walk him down and try to pressure him, Aldo's very fast at countering you. And when he counters you, it's not with one shot. It's like with multiple different punches. Very good at pivoting out of the way and cutting angles. And his leg kicks were just next level, second to none. And leg kicks, again, are a good way to break down a really good boxer. Ilia himself has good leg kicks, but I do not think he'd out leg kick Jose Aldo. Now, he does have good grappling, good wrestling, but Aldo's takedown defense was so good, so I don't think he would be able to take down Aldo or at least hold him down for long if he did. And when it comes down to just the striking, a pure striking match between Ilia Topuria and Jose Aldo, I think Aldo has more tools on the feet, a lot better with kicks, high kicks, spinning back kicks to the body, flying knees. And I just think he might have been I think he was actually way faster than Ilia, so I'm going to have to give the edge to Jose Aldo to beat Topuria. I think Topuria might win the early rounds and he might hurt Jose Aldo early, kind of like Chad Mendes, but Aldo kind of thrives in those firefights, in those wars. And I think Aldo would kind of adapt as the fight goes on, and he would start finding a home for his shots against Ilia, really start beating up that front leg, beat up the body of Topuria, and I'd say he beats Ilia Topuria via decision. Now, this one is tough. Makhachev versus Khabib. I mean, in terms of GOAT talks in the lightweight division, it's kind of up in the air because but the most title defenses in the lightweight division is 3. Benson has 3 defenses. BJ Penn has 3 defenses. Khabib has 3 defenses. Frankie Edgar, he technically has 3, but I don't know if you count the draw as 3 defenses. So I don't know if you could put Edgar in the conversation, but let's just say Khabib just because he's undefeated. So, okay, just based off that, I'm going to put Islam against Khabib, but I do think Islam would beat Benson and he would beat BJ Penn. But I think this matchup is more interesting, even though they would never really fight each other. It's still interesting because they're kind of like, they're alike in their styles. They're both dominant, strong Dagestani wrestlers. Everyone knows what they want to do. No one's able to stop what they're good at. So they're very similar in that regards. I do think the wrestling would cancel each other out. I think Khabib had the edge in toughness. I think his pressure was better than Islam's. I think his cardio was better than Islam's. But Makhachev is a better striker. I think he's got more power. I don't think they would be able to take one another down. I think it would come down to the striking. But I could see Khabib attempting more takedowns, getting Islam against the cage more often, grinding him out against the fence, applying a lot of pressure on Makhachev, having more output than Makhachev. Whereas Makhachev's output isn't crazy like Khabib, so I don't know if he would knock out Khabib, even though he does have power and he's a good counterpuncher and he's got better defense. I still feel like he wouldn't be able to chin Khabib, so close fight, but I think Khabib edges a very close competitive decision against Islam. I think he would just out hustle Islam with his pressure. Even if he can't take Makhachev down, I think he'll get him up against the cage. Have a lot of cage control. I think his pressure would be extremely effective. And Khabib is just Khabib. He's more unstoppable than Makhachev. He's got more aura than Makhachev. So I gotta go with the Eagle, Khabib Nurmagomedov. Now this next one, Leon Rocky Edwards versus George St. Pierre. I got George St. Pierre over Leon Edwards any day. I've always said that George St. Pierre beats Leon Edwards. I will debate anyone on this topic. Look, Leon Edwards is a very well-rounded fighter. He is a great striker. He can grapple too. He can take you down. His takedown defense is good. His cardio is good. But George is George. George has that X factor with his wrestling. He's got some of the best control time out of any wrestler currently in the welterweight division, in welterweight history. Some of the best takedowns. And I think he's got better striking than any of the wrestlers Leon's been up against. Better striking than Kamaru Usman, better striking than Colby Covington, better striking than Bilal Muhammad. So even though Leon is a better striker than George, I think the stand-up would be competitive. George had underrated timing, underrated precision. George was fast. George had good footwork as well. So I think in the stand-up, he could hold his own against Leon. I think he could connect shots on Leon Edwards. And I do think that with the wrestling, he would waste no time. I do believe he would be able to draw Leon in a wrestling match and wear him out with constant takedown attempts. And I just don't think Leon would be able to shut down the wrestling of George for 5 rounds and pick him apart to a decision, like he was able to do to Usman in the second fight. And Colby just barely tried to wrestle him. Usman in the trilogy was deteriorated coming off the knockout loss, and he has bad knees, so I think that definitely messed with the effectiveness of his takedowns. Whereas George, a young, healthy, prime George St. Pierre, ultimately I just think would be too much for Leon Edwards. I do think Leon would do some damage. He would cut up George with some elbows. He might stun George in some moments, but ultimately I think George would, take control, full control, with his wrestling and win by decision. Now, Anderson Silva versus Dricus du Plessis. This one's easy. Anderson Silva would have no trouble with Dricus du Plessis. Even though Dricus du Plessis actually, I don't want to say he would have no trouble. I take that back because du Plessis could take him down. He's stronger, very good wrestler, good top control. But it's just the striking. Even though he has power, he's got such a goofy style. He leaves himself open when he's on the attack. And Anderson Silva is one of the best strikers, if not the best striker in UFC history. Even though he's retired, still, prime Silva, no one was as good of a striker as him. He had some of the best defense, best counter ability, and I just don't think Dricus could deal with his striking. And when it comes to the grappling, he might get a takedown on Silva, but Anderson Silva was very good at just riding out the clock, waiting out the clock until the round would end, and then the next round starts on the feet. Silva's very good at then readjusting, doing good at not getting taken down the following round. Like round 1 is usually where the best wrestlers do good against him. They hold him down. Then the second round, Silva kind of picks things up. And I do think Silva would be able to defend a majority of Dricus' takedowns. He might get taken down like once or twice, but after that, I do think Dricus would be forced to strike with him. I think Anderson Silva would chop down his legs. I think Anderson Silva would just piece him up with the boxing exchanges. I think he would toy with Dricus du Plessis, honestly. So I say Anderson Silva wins via knockout against Dricus, as Dricus is like trying to crash forward with his like goofy ass strikes. And Silva would probably catch him with like a check hook or something like that. Maybe a flying knee as Dricus is like going for a bad takedown. But man, look at what Darren Till was able to do to Dricus du Plessis in that second round. I can only imagine Silva maybe having a rough first round by being taken down, then coming back and just getting in his flow, doing his like Wing Chun movements, using a lot of his feints, walking down Dricus, hand fighting him, touching him with elbows, kneeing him to the body, stinging him with punches. And somewhere in that second round, he's able to find the chin of Dricus or find the temple and get a knockout. I just think Silva was too good, and Prime Silva was pretty much unstoppable. And I still think if Silva was in his prime in today's middleweight division, I still think he beats every middleweight currently. So yeah, Silva wins that. Now, Alex Pereira versus Jon Jones. Alex Pereira, man, he's on a roll lately. He's looking unstoppable in the light heavyweight division, and this fight is actually a conversation, but to happen at heavyweight. But if Alex would have fought a prime Jon Jones at 205, let's be real, Jon Jones would destroy Alex Pereira. Alex is a phenomenal striker. I think he would destroy Jon Jones' chicken legs. And he could definitely knock Jon Jones out. If Jon Jones is dumb like he was against Thiago Santos and wastes time trying to test out the stand-up against Alex Pereira, then yeah, Alex would probably chin Jon Jones. But Jon Jones is a smart fighter. I think Jon Jones would just wear out Alex Pereira in the clinch. And I do think that he would waste no time with the wrestling against Alex because he knows how dangerous Pereira is on the feet. Jamal Hill didn't consider wrestling and got dusted under like 3 minutes. Yuri was doing good, but again, Yuri's a striker with poor defense. He was bound to get knocked out. Jon Jones has good defense, so Alex would definitely have a hard time catching him. I think Jon Jones could break him down with those oblique kicks to the knees. Just stay out of those big exchanges with Pereira. Keep that distance. If Pereira gets overzealous trying to chase that knockout, Jon will double leg him. And once they're on the ground, man, it's all Jon Jones. So I'd say Jon Jones would win this fight by submission inside a round or two, similar to what he did to Ciryl Gane. But yeah, Jon Jones, just so much better. Too good. Especially prime Jon Jones. I'm not talking about the Jon who, like, couldn't finish Smith, had split decisions with Santos and Reyes. I mean the Jon Jones who was on a legend killing tour. That Jon Jones before the suspensions, who had 8 straight defenses, he kills Alex Pereira. It's not even close. Now heavyweight, I want to make things interesting because I know I said champions, undisputed, right? But I want to spice things up and include the interim champ as well, because a lot of people do view Tom Aspinall as like the real champ at heavyweight, right? Because Jon doesn't want to fight him, and he's gonna have another fight since winning the interim belt before Jon fights again. And if he defends his interim title, a lot of people are gonna say he's like the real champion because he's active and Jon has held up the division. So Jon Jones and Tom Aspinall versus Stipe Miocic in Stipe's prime. I'm going to start with Tom Aspinall. It's really tough because Aspinall does get hit. Sergey Pavlovich was tagging him in some moments against, or in that fight with Aspinall. Blades was kind of connecting. Aspinall could be a little bit careless with his defense, so Stipe could knock him out. I think Stipe had better hands than Aspinall. Very good wrestler as well, so I don't know if Aspinall could lean towards a grappling game plan. And Stipe also had very good pressure, very good at cutting off the octagon, cornering you against the cage and timing that clean 1-2 right hand on the jaw and knocking his opponents out. And he had a good chin too, but Tom, better footwork, faster. He could still make some takedowns, give Stipe something to worry about. It's a really tough fight, man, and Aspinall could chop down the legs. But I don't know. I think I'm gonna have to go with Stipe. Prime Stipe. I think he would beat Tom Aspinall, but I could see Tom finding a way to win. But Stipe in his prime was an animal. Dude was dangerous as hell, and I think he might catch Aspinall with his chin up in the air as he's like backing up against the cage, chin up. I think Stipe would tag him down the middle with a clean right hand, probably. I don't know. I could be dead wrong about that fight, but yeah. I just think based off some of Tom's defensive flaws and how good Stipe's boxing was, and the fact that Tom might not be able to take him down, even though Tom is really talented, I think Stipe might beat him, but I would not be shocked if Aspinall was able to beat a prime Stipe. But Stipe was just so good in his prime. Now, Jon Jones versus Stipe. If, let's say Jon were to move up to heavyweight way sooner, and not this current version of Jon, because even though he did beat Aspinall, on a technicality, he still is, or sorry, Gain, not Aspinall. On a technicality, he's kind of still washed because he looked very slow in his heavyweight debut, but Ciryl Gane just doesn't have good takedown defense. And Jon at heavyweight's more physical. He's got the strength to just kind of bully his opponents. So it worked for him against Ciryl Gane. But say you take a prime Jon from like 2011, 2015 Jon up against prime Stipe of like both title reigns. I think Jon Jones would beat Stipe because Jon just has more tools. I think Stipe is a better boxer. Jon is a better striker, better kicks. I think he could keep that distance, keep Stipe at the end of his kicks, at the end of his oblique kicks, his teep kicks, probably land longer punches like jabs, 1-2s, and then move out of the pocket. He just would not let Stipe get close and keep him at a kicking range, land strikes from the outside. Now the wrestling could cancel each other out, but I still think Jon could take him down at will. Because Daniel Cormier was able to hold down Stipe Miocic in that first round. Now, in the third fight, DC couldn't hold him down and couldn't get other takedowns when he tried. But I do think Jon, with his level of grappling and his ability to control guys on the ground, heavyweight Jon Jones might be able to hold down Stipe. And he might be able to maul him on the ground. So I'm going to say that Jon Jones on the feet picks him apart, stays out of boxing range, doesn't let Stipe get close and land those powerful bombs, and then is able to get Stipe in the clinch, out-clinch him, and then get a takedown, grind him out, and he probably would find a submission somewhere in the middle to late rounds or win by a decision. But I would not be shocked if Stipe were able to beat Jon Jones. Currently, I think Jon Jones will win that fight, but that's it for my every current champ versus the GOATs of their division, of the new gen versus the old gen. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. Thank you for watching. Like and subscribe, and peace out.